Yo guys, welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be doing some woods life hacks that you may need for something that you're doing for survival, or if you just want to camp out and you just have no idea what to do. So I'm going to be going over a few life hacks that you can do that are really helpful and that can help you survive in basically any situation in the woods or forests. Alright guys, so the first life hack we're going to be showing today is basically how to light a fire. So if you're trying to light it here, like you're trying to light it, it won't really go. I mean, maybe a fuse, you see, that's not enough. So basically guys, what you need is a little piece of paper, any piece of paper, maybe even if you're on like a campus kind of thing and you want to like tear up the map if you don't have anything with you. You can put some of this paper or newspaper, whatever type of stuff you have. And then basically what you're going to need is some bug spray, because it's repellent. It's like a dual thing. Most people don't know about it. But not only does it keep away bugs, by the way, this is the best bug spray in the world. Basically, you don't think about it, but this is flammable. So this is one that you have to be careful about, because you can make a wildfire super easily. But you have some rocks, clear out the area, put some rocks as a border, and then basically you just get some paper, spray like 2 sprays of this on. You can do this either before or after you start the fire on the paper. So basically, let me get this ready. Let me try to light this up. Alright, so the paper is lighting up. You spray some stuff on it. It blows out, but usually before works better. And whenever you get it here. By the way, dead leaves are the best, and you don't need a lot of this bug spray to do it. Or you don't have to use just bug spray. You can technically use anything that is flammable. This is pretty flammable. There's some other stuff that's better. This is just one I have on me right now. But it gets a few tries, and you don't need a lot of it, because if it's too much, then it won't be good enough. You see, it's starting to come together now. And then you can put some twigs in. I don't have the materials right now, but basically the other thing is,
try doing it after.
Try doing it after, or if you have a big fire with a big piece of paper, you can do it, which makes it super expanded. Like here, you get it on the paper. Well, you have to have a bigger piece of paper like this. But if you use a bigger piece of paper, you can do it like during it, which will expand it. I'll actually show you that to you guys. But using dead leaves is by far the best. Using live leaves, there's just something about it. It just doesn't work very well. So basically, we're gonna light it up. You gotta wait for the fire to be bigger, like that. And you can see it's a little bit dangerous, so make sure that you have an adult near you guys. But you can put some twigs. I usually use bark. Bark's a good way, especially if you have something that can scrape it out. And then you got a working fire. So yeah, that's the first hack. And yeah, you got a working fire. Then you can just add some sticks and more dead leaves. And yeah, that's the first hack. Alright guys, so the second hack that I have, or maybe even third, because dead leaves is a little bit, some people don't really know that. But the second one, it's really easy. If you just, obviously this is an extremely massive shovel, but if you do have a shovel that you have with you, in these forests, it depends on where you are, but most of the time you'll see this colored stuff. It usually comes up and crumbles like this. But if you put a little bit of water on it, it can make, number one, a great molding kind of like mold. You can just put it wherever you want to like block things out. We actually used clay, and this is like a clay type kind of thing. But we made a little border so that we could keep this in. You can use clay as a perfect border if you would like to keep water. This is really nasty water, but like it's actually decent for washing hands, especially if you're using sticks and stuff. And then we use leaves as our thing, but that's just like a little thing that we do. But so you can use clay, put it and dip it in a little bit of water that you're willing to spare, and you put it on the bottom of like this big divot that you want to have as a water source. So if you could even get like, if you wanted a life straw or something, and the cause of an absolute emergency, then you could do this, and basically you just put clay on the bottom. We've had this water since yesterday, and it's still been working, and it's still been here, so we haven't filled this up at all. Because clay just makes such a good like seal, and water doesn't leak through it. It's really strong. And we used it also as a border for here so that it's a good deep divot. So if we wanted to use the water for something, even putting out fires and stuff like that, you could use this for a perfect little border as like a big divot to use water sources or whatnot that you want to do. This could be for anything. You can use it for tons of different things, but this is just a really good basin area that doesn't let water leak out. So yeah. So guys, just as a little tip to use, clay is found in the ground depending on where you are, like I said, but you can find it, dip in water. It makes a really strong border. Like that's holding up pretty well. Like the clay, it's a really strong
when
thing.
it dries.
Yeah, whenever it dries. You can't do it. If it's too wet, then it'll kind of just droop down. But it has to be dried. Wait like maybe 4 hours, and it's completely dried like this. And it's really strong, so we know that as much water as we want to put in there, it will not make holes or anything. So clay is a really good resource to use in any type of struggle that you're in the wilderness. But yeah, that's a really good hack just for anything. Clay is a very good material to use whenever you're in the wild. Alright guys, the third hack that I have for you guys today, if you guys really do want to just make a completely homemade shelter, this is a really good example because you should find a few tips that you should do and find before you start making it. You should find, unlike that tree over there, you should find something that has a low branch that you can use most sticks with that are tall enough that it's able to be used. But you just lean it to that. I use some string to connect all these, and you can just wrap it around as many times as you want, just to make sure they all go to a certain point. But I laid a few down up here. This is a little bit higher branch than you might usually want because you can't find.
You can show inside the fort.
Branch. But you know, this is basically what you should do. It's just a really small area. A thing to cover it up though, because we use all these sticks and there's still massive holes, as you can see. There's still massive holes that can get in. You can use, and this is an example that we used from yesterday. We used plants. This one is dead. So you have to replace this every single night or every single morning, whenever you're back. But plants like this that just have a bunch of leaves on them, you can pull them and just shake off all these roots. And then you can use them as a border. You don't want them to go in, but laying them perfectly like that, it makes a lot better border. Because or you could even take a leaf off, take the leaves from it, and just cover up the holes. That would take a lot longer, but if you really do, this is more of a hack for like people that want to,
explore.
Yeah, that you want to make a completely homemade kind of setup. But so, yeah, this is just a thing if you wanted to make like a completely homemade fort. Usually
Also, you want to make it under a tree so the rain doesn't get in if it is a rainy
don't
day.
make it under a dead tree. That's a good point, Thaddeus. Don't make it under a dead tree because rain's just going to pour down on it. If you have some sort of protection, like right here, you can't even see the outside because there's so many trees. I mean, leaves that are protecting you from the rain. So, yeah, this just covers up the patches. Most of the time, if you're camping, you'll want to get like a real tent. But if you don't have the money for that and you want to go completely wild, like if your family really likes to do some insane stuff and make it completely homemade, this is the way to do it. Just place up some things. We have some things to change on this. I'm not saying that our fort's the best because it really is not great, but this is basically, just in general, this is the setup that you want to have.
We might fix it up, but...
Yeah. But so we replace all of these, take some plants from over there, lay them across. Make sure the plants don't get in like this though. Make sure that they stay outside so that it doesn't irritate whoever is laying in there. But it's just a really good cover up for whenever you want to make a completely homemade tent. So yeah. Guys, the fourth hack is to make a border. You can basically, if you have a hammer, then you can definitely use that. I found this to be the most easy way to do it. Just take any type of thing. Depends on your preference on how high you want the stakes to be. But basically, you just hammer it into the ground. Any things that you want. Any sticks. You could make the border. Some of these are completely different sizes. But it's just a really good thing to use as a border. Even for tents, like tents that are made in factories, you can still get close to animals and they can get close to you. By making this really simple, obviously we make a really big border for this, but you can make a border. I bet you if we took this and just wrapped it around, it would probably go all the way around. So this is a really simple way. The other thing, if you don't, because most people won't bring a hammer, you can take a big fat log like this. I mean, this is just an example, but you can hold it in and just pound it. It's nearly as good, or even possibly better than a hammer, because you don't miss as much. So this could also be a safety thing too. But you can just take a big thing and just hammer them in. An option that you can do is you can hammer them closer together than what we have them. These are kind of spaced out. If you really want to make it real protected, then you can make them really close together. We also did this just as an experiment. You could put a string as much as you want. This is basically all of these are completely optional with what you want to do. These are just some simple tips that you can use out in the wilderness. But we use some string so that nothing comes close to us and that they can't just walk through these. But of course, if you want to make them super close together, there's not really a need for that, because not many big animals can cross them, especially whenever there's high stakes, which is your option. It's whatever you want to do. So just a really cool border to make sure that you're safe, because there's a lot of wildlife that comes out here in the night. So yeah, it's just a really simple border. This is completely optional. Like, you can just make sticks really close together. You don't have to do that, or you can make them far apart. You can make them tall, the stakes tall or small, whatever you want to do. So yeah, guys, the last hack that I have for you today, the fifth one, is basically, it's a very simple tip. It's just to make sure that you know where you're going, because the last thing you want to do is, especially if you have like a really nice tent, if there's a river near your tent, which most likely there's going to be if you have a river available, because you want for like water, and maybe even if you want to go fishing, like catching some fish or whatnot, making a path is a really good way. I mean, like, we know where we are right now. Like, we don't really need it. This is more for decoration. It could also be for decoration if you really have nothing else to do and you just want to hang out with your children or whoever with a fort or tent or whatever you want to do with it. But whenever you're not in like a place where you know exactly where you are, making a noticeable trail or like where you are is a really good way to just know where you're going. So you can make a path as you go so that you know, hey, this is where my tent is, follow these. Because if you lose your $400 tent, that's not as good. Like, that's really not.
Kind of like Hansel and Gretel when they leave the trail.
Yeah, but you just want to, like, if this could be, all of these are optional, like I said, but if you want to make a trail, I would suggest it. But if you don't and you know where you are, it's not really a necessity. So yeah, if you can just use stones as it, or you can use pieces of wood. You don't have to make them as close together as this, because this is really noticeable. They can just be sticks lined up horizontally. You can even make them pointing like upwards as like a way, just so that you know where you are and that you don't forget, because sometimes places in forests can look really similar, like really, really similar. And if you don't know where you are and you get lost off the track because you're like, oh, that's my hut over here. So if you get lost, you don't know where you were before, especially if you're out at like some sort of like camping area and there's no one around. It's a really easy way just to make sure that you know where you're going. And it's really also a safety kind of thing, because if you lose one of your kids in the forest, it's one of the worst things that can happen. So,
or your friends.
Yeah, whatever. But yeah, so just build a trail is my fifth one, so that you know where you're going and that you don't get lost. Alright guys, that's all for today. Shout out to Thaddeus, he's the cameraman behind this. Good job, Thaddeus. These are just some simple hacks that you can use. Some of these are optional. Well, basically all of them are optional. But these are just some like basic things that if you really want to make a house, like there's some more important ones, like making a fire. Like some people just think, I thought even, just making a fire was simple. Just like light a piece of dead leaf and then it would just start going. It's not that simple though, especially if you don't have like lighting fluid. So something as like just every day as that, you just gotta find your way around things. But yeah, these are just some simple hacks. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video if you want to see more.
Like the video.
Thank you for watching and have a nice day. You can see that big burst. It's actually kind of cool. This could even be used as a trick, honestly. It makes a super cool sound too. Keep recording, Ted. Here, get some more dead leaves. Yeah, this is a fire, guys. This is how you do it. This is probably one of the best hacks in general, especially on colder nights. Look at that, guys. Simple everyday thing put to use. Oh wow, that's the biggest fire we've had. Look at that, guys. How incredible is that? Look at that, guys.
It's pretty warm, actually.
Yeah. But yeah, guys, that's a pretty good hack. You might want to try that out sometime, guys. Just make sure that you are under supervision of an adult. There you go, guys. Simple way to do a fire. You spray it as you're going, and then you can get a good fire. Look at that, guys.
It's warm.
See that, guys? Look at that. That's how you get a fire going.
Don't waste the bug spray.
Yeah, this is if you have some excess. This is a perfect way to start it though.
It's warm.
Alright guys, we're going to try it a few more times. I know this can be good. You just got to get a good fire going. Once you got it, then it'll start burning. Look at that, guys. Fire.
It's good.
It keeps it going for a while too if you really need a Kickstarter, you know? Look at that, perfect fire. Homemade, people. And there you go. There you have it. Some fire.